Welcome to WitchLit, a place to talk about the craft of writing and writing the craft. I'm your host, Victoria Raschke, author, publisher, witch, and nosy Scorpio. You're here, so you're probably an avid reader of books on witchcraft and the occult. And if you're looking for an online source for alternative books and indie decks, lapanterostudio.com has an amazing selection of books, tarot decks, and oracle cards to choose from. No matter your path, whether you're a hedge witch or an aspiring herbalist, find the right books for your library. That's LAPANTHERE studio.com. WitchLit listeners can enjoy 15% off their purchases with the code WitchLit. That's WITCHLIT, all one word, link in the show notes. WitchLit is also brought to you by Thousand Volt Press, an independent, family-owned, digital and print-on-demand publisher of books we want to see in the world. If you'd like to support WitchLit and Thousand Volt Press, the best way to do that is buy our books. Our most recent title is Pagan Roots, Reclaiming Concepts of the Sacred by Yvonne Abaro. Other titles include A Death in the Dry River by Lisa Allen Agostini, Conjuring the Commonplace by Lane Fuller and Corey Thomas Hutchison, and my most recent novel, Verona Green, A Story of Art and Magic. Head over to thousandvoltpress.com/store or pick them up wherever you buy books. You can also support the show by buying us a cup of coffee at ko-fi.com/witchlitpodcast. All those links can be found in the show notes. Listening, subscribing, and leaving a rating or review where you listen also supports the podcast, and we really appreciate it, so thank you. Next month, I'll be reading and discussing the controversial classic, The Satanic Witch by Anton LaVey with author Katta Kis. The Satanic Witch was originally published in 1971 as The Compleat Witch, or What to Do When Virtue Fails. The current version as The Satanic Witch is available from Feral House as a paperback and an ebook. I was able to pick up a used copy, but it's also available from bookshop.org. I've never read any of LaVey's books, so this ought to be interesting. Now, let's jump into this month's episode with author and deck creator Charles Harrington. All right. Hi. So today we are going to talk about the Oracle Glass that was written by Judith Merkle Riley. And I meant to see what year it was written, but it was mid-90s, I think 1996. And I didn't put that in my notes. But I'm going to read a little bit about the author, and then I'll tell you a little bit about the book. And then I'll have my guest who's on today introduce himself, and we'll jump into talking about this book, which I thoroughly enjoyed. So first, a quick bio of Judith Merkle Riley. This is from Lisa at Way Too Fantasy, book blog. So she was born in Maine in 1942 as Judith Astria Merkle, but grew up in California. She seems to have lived on the West Coast for much of her life, attaining a PhD from UC Berkeley in political science, and later teaching at Claremont McKenna College in the government department. She did spend some time back east, obtaining a master's degree in Soviet regional studies at Harvard. She also taught at the University of Oregon through most of the 70s and was the director of the Russian and Eastern European Studies Center her last year there in 1982. She married and had two children, a daughter and her son. Her daughter, Elizabeth, works in the publishing industry, and Merkle Riley passed away in September of 2010 from ovarian cancer at the age of 68. She published 6 novels, 3 in her Margaret of Ashbury series, the one she's best known for, and then 3 standalone works, including the one we're reading, The Oracle Glass. The first of her novels, A Vision of Light, was published in 1988 when she was 46 years old. I appreciate that about her. It's when I published my first novel. A common thread throughout all of her works is the strength of her female protagonist, navigating societies that are not meant for them, facing their struggles with practicality, wit, and often a good deal of humor. She also always has a bit of romantic subplot to her novels. And I found this from an interview with her in 2007. And when asked about why she wrote historical novels, this is from Word Wenches, and Mary Jo Putney was the interviewer. I've always loved historical novels, starting with Sabatini, Du Mon Père, Sir Walter Scott, and the whole gang, but I never thought I could write one. A lot of things came together in the 1980s. I was pushing 50 and ready to try new things. The women's movement appeared to be withering on the vine, and I thought the spark would be kept alive with accurate, woman-centered historical novels. I was also a frustrated student of medieval manuscripts. My father, in those ancient days of patriarchy, had said it was impractical and I must study something real. I'd been real for a long time, and I couldn't even pretend anymore that it was bringing joy to my soul. Also, my first book, nonfiction, academic, had been denounced as too well written by my colleagues. So I thought I might be able to write something more lively. I figured if I wrote a novel and it were horrible, it had the great advantage of being easily hidden. And so this is a quick, well, sort of quick rundown of the book that we are going to talk about, so you have a little bit idea what's going on if you didn't read it. So this is a synopsis of The Oracle Glass from the Gilmore Guide to Books, which is curated and written by Catherine Gilmore. A young girl with a peculiar gift, the ability to read the future in a bowl of water, or as it was known at the time, an oracle glass. Genevieve is not blessed in any of the ways important to girls in 17th century Paris. She has a club foot and a twisted spine, so her mother sends her away shortly after her birth. It is only when her father discovers he has a daughter he knows to be truly his, unlike Genevieve's brother and sister, that he finds her and brings her back to the family home and teaches her in the way he sees fit, with mathematics, philosophy, Latin, and Greek, making her even more unusual. His unexpected and mysterious death brings an end to her life as she knows it, and when her uncle rapes her in a fit of fury upon finding that her father's hidden fortune has been left to her, she runs away. Only 15 years old, Genevieve has few options, and so accepts the help of Lavoisin, an alchemist who tells fortunes. It is Lavoisin who decides that with such an old soul and unique talent, Genevieve shall be remade into the Madame de Morville, a seer and relic over 120 years old, whose preserved face and figure are the result of a lost potion. Genevieve moves into this new life wearing a corset with steel bars to straighten her spine, a padded shoe to correct her limp, and pounds of heavy funereal makeup to age her beyond recognition. For her, it is the only path to her one goal, wreaking vengeance on her uncle and mother. Merkle Riley starts with the very real events and characters from the Affair of the Poisons, which was from about 1677 to 1682, but in an admirable feat of imagination expands that real-life scandal into a living underworld peopled with charlatans, magicians, grifters, and courtesans who thrived during the Sun King's reign. And to talk about this book with me, and who chose this book, is the lovely Charles Harrington, who I'm going to have introduce himself and tell you what he's been up to.
Hey there. I am so excited to talk about The Oracle Glass. I really love this book, and I think it's one of the best novels with a diviner as its protagonist. I am very interested in divination, along with being a witch. I am also a tarot reader and tarot enthusiast, and I just wrote the Tarot and Oracle Card Reading for Dummies, published by Wiley in the For Dummies line. That just came out. I also have coming up the Odyssey Oracle coming out from Lo Scarabeo based on Homer's Odyssey. And the Tarot Calendar for 2026 is coming out soon. You'll want to get that or you might miss some of your appointments. So, but was really excited to hear that you liked this book.
I am a sucker for historical novels. Like, I deeply love them. And I'm also a sucker for historical novels by people who've done like real depth research into the era, which you really see in this work. I mean, some of the reviews I read of it, people are like, oh my God, when she gets to the real stuff, it gets really boring. And I was like, no, it doesn't. What are you talking about?
People are funny. Like one of the common things I read was that like there's too many French names to remember. So you can't really keep track of people. And I'm like, it just doesn't. If you don't know who's speaking, you can kind of figure out, are they an aristocrat? Are they a Charlotte? Are they a reader? Mm-hmm. You figure it out. It's not that important.
Yeah. I did find, so there is an audiobook, even though this came out in the 90s, somebody along the way did an audiobook. I think like she kind of hit a renaissance, unfortunately, like right before she died, like people really started to read her books because apparently a couple of her books were published in German before they were published in English.
Oh, wild.
Because there was this like dearth of historical novels in the US, but they were big in Europe.
This was before the other Boleyn girl,
Yeah, like, and before, Diana Gabaldon and like all of that stuff came out.
Yes.
So, so I think that was part of the reason that like initially some of these weren't big, but I lost my train of thought.
The audiobook.
Oh, the audiobook. Thank you. So yeah, the audiobook exists and it is very expensive though. Like if you don't have an account with Audible or something, I wound up purchasing it just because sometimes I can just get their longer books easier these days with an audiobook.
Absolutely.
But Apple Books and Audible both have it. If people
I
want to
did the
do
Audible
that.
version this time around. I read it the first time, and this time I did the audio, and I thought she did a great job of keeping me on track with who all the characters were.
Yeah,
and
because she pronounces them in French, basically.
Yes,
Like
yes.
she doesn't do voices, and she's not doing accents or anything, but she pronounces the French words in French.
Yeah.
And it's clear she is a French speaker, so it was a little easier. Yeah.
And I thought so there are a lot of semi-historical witch fiction books out there, and they're almost all about England or Salem, Massachusetts.
Yep.
And they're almost always about young ingenue who discovers the ancient lineage of the goddess and is connected to this power of the land. And that is not this book.
No, not at all. And that was one of the things, because you mentioned that when we were trying to decide what we were going to read. And I was like, oh yeah, this is great. And you're right. There's so little written about, which is strange because this is like just chock-a-block full of like weird Catholic witches and actual court intrigue.
Yes.
Like all this stuff going on.
So what's also, well, normally when we're talking about historical witch trials, we're talking about, entirely about innocent women, mostly also men who were, accused of witchcraft and were not guilty of anything and were, burned at the stake or whatever for completely, untruths. The affair of the poisons really happened, and people were really murdering each other in this story. I'm not saying everyone got what they deserved. I'm not saying that, but I love that their word for poison is inheritance powder.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, and as things kind of start to unravel, like if you know anything about the affair of the poisons, you kind of know how this book ends. But as things start to unravel, they're like, oh, our network of inheritance powders. And I was like, it really was. Like, it was this whole network of people supplying the poisons and all of this stuff. And one of the things that I found out, not while doing research for this book, but by doing research for a book I just finished writing that I just turned in to my editor. So Lavoisin also used, because some of her stuff came from Italy, like some of her poisons came from Italy. She had them brought into the country as Saint Anthony of Padua's tears.
Oh gosh.
And other saint like oils and stuff, so that they were under, like, it was all very Catholic.
It's very Catholic. And what's wild is that so most historical witch fiction, again, is like, we don't worship the devil, that we have nothing to do with that. And like, not the main character does not, but most of the other witches in the book worship the devil and also go to mass.
Yes.
And this is not a contradiction for them.
Yes.
And they're summoning Astaroth, and that
whole aftermath of summoning Astaroth may be one of my favorite whole things about the book.
Good. So good. We'll get to that.
I'm not going to spoil that immediately, but it is fabulous.
Yes. And also, so the fear of the poisons, what also is wild is, so these people, this network of people had a lot of jobs. They were perfumers, they were herbalists, they were abortion providers. Which one?
There were candle makers.
There were candle makers. There were abortion providers, which was probably their biggest sin at that time. Making quotey fingers when I say sin. There were fortune tellers and poisoners. So like these people were Renaissance people, truly.
Yeah. Well, and fortune telling wasn't illegal in Paris at the time.
That's the one thing they did that wasn't illegal of all the.
Yeah, like all this other stuff was free thinking was illegal, but fortune telling wasn't.
Yeah. Very Catholic, and so we do have. While there are people who are charlatans in the book, a lot of them are genuinely skilled. I think Lavoisin, at least it's implied that she is able to see the future. She mostly uses her network of spies and her other skullduggerous means, but she and also Genevieve, who becomes the Marquise de Morville, are genuine readers. They have a gift for it, and I think that was exciting for me.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and that, I think the thing that was interesting is that though it is clear many of them are charlatans, like this weird, like pious behavior as far as being Catholic, and also this deep belief in the devil, which I think kind of have to, I don't think you can really believe in the devil and not also believe in God. Like those things kind of go together. Like like they were genuine believers.
Mm-hmm.
Like according to the book, the way the book is written now, in real life, I don't know like how much of that was true, but because after they do summon Astaroth, she's very angry that things go awry.
Yes. And also when she's talking about getting ingredients, she's talking about, so in the book, she's making a hand of glory, and she needs the hand of an executed man, you know, and or the fat of an, you know, and normally in fortune teller charlatan stories, they're fakes. They're using like pig blubber instead. But these people really were seeking out, you know, all of these difficult things because they had a genuine belief that they were what would make the magic happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And she's basically running an incinerator in her home for the abortionists.
Yes.
And fertilizing her garden with it.
Yeah. Now, I first heard about, pretty dark, but I first heard about Lovosan from a woman in my Wiccan tradition is a midwife. And she really looked up to Lovosan as an abortion provider at a time when all of these women with these court intrigue, they're having a wonderful time, but they can't have all these children. And she was there for that. And I think that you can look at this character, this historical person, and, you know, not be very pleased with the fact that she was poisoning people. But I think as someone who believes in reproductive rights, there's something there to admire, I will say.
Well, and I think Merkle might have admired her a little bit too, because I think the whole storyline about the fact that the women who were sent to this doctor, who turns out to be basically the equivalent of a back alley butcher, was well known that it was better to go to her and get an herbal treatment for the abortion rather than go to this doctor who he would just dump their bodies in an alley or into the Seine.
Yes.
So.
And she's a very interesting character. And I think one of the things that I think is very hard for writers of fiction to do is to write a diviner. Usually in fiction, divination has to be like dramatic irony. So like if you think like the witches in Macbeth or Oedipus or Tiresias and Oedipus, everyone has to get it wrong all the time or for it to work. And I was just reading myself one of the great classics of paganism. It's an Arthurian telling, and everyone who's powerful in that book has the sight and does nothing with it. They absolutely they ignore it all the time, even though then it's real, because a lot of authors can't figure out how to tell an interesting story if people can see the future. And what I really love about this novel is that Genevieve's gift is, I mean, she's a very talented clairvoyant in a way that I think most of us would dream of being. She just sort of sees this, like if I see something symbolic, you know, in a crystal or something like that, but she sees just the scene, like she's watching television, but she still has, you know, her own difficulties and challenges and people around her.
Some opium to make some of that happen.
Yeah. She's got the corset, so she needs the opium, and then later coffee, which was, I think coffee lovers like it when books kind of maybe anachronistically tell the story of coffee. So they're all drinking like Turkish coffee and figuring it out for the first time.
Which is kind of, I mean, I think that's pretty accurate time-wise. She might have fudged it a little bit, but it's pretty close. Yeah.
So as a tarot reader, I do have to say, what's not accurate is they're reading tarot cards 100 years before the tarot card reading got started. But I wanted tarot to be in the book. I wanted them to be talking about the Queen of Swords and the Tower. So I am here for that anachronism. Also, let's see. I think something I think is interesting about the book is that you start out thinking like, oh, okay, I get it. This is the main character. She's not like the other girls. She likes books and Roman philosophers, not boys. And then, no, that's not the case. She's super like the other girls. She's there's a young man who's in love with her sister that she wishes that he loved her and saw her as beautiful. And she just, as someone who's got these physical deformities, I don't know, or, you know, that she's having to mask. I get it. Like, haven't we all wanted to feel beautiful? And I don't know. I appreciated that about the character.
Yeah. I mean, and Charles and I were talking a little bit beforehand. And one of the things, you know, like sometimes when you get really into a book, depending on where you are in your own life, and you're like, oh my God, girl, do not make that decision. And you're like, this is a child. Like she's 15 to 19 over the course of the whole book.
Yeah.
So she's not experienced in the world. I mean, way more than a 15-year-old should be. Let's be
Yeah.
clear about that. But she's still, you still don't understand long term
Right.
in the same way when you're that age that you do when
Yeah.
you get older. And so I had to remind myself a couple of times when I was reading, and I was like, oh, yeah, this is exactly what a 16-year-old girl would do.
Yes, 100%.
So-
And even she's smart enough that she knows what's
Mhm.
up. So sometimes she's like, he's just
Yeah.
doing this because he's thinking this. He's not really into me. But then
Mhm.
another part of her brain is like, girl, calm down. We wanted this. We wanted
Mhm.
this. So I
Yeah.
appreciated that quite a bit.
And I think Merkle does a good job of kind of showing that, like in her own head, that conversation about, you don't really want this. No, I do really want this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like I want to be with the wrong guy when you're 16,
Mhm.
you should be with the wrong guy, or 19 at the end of it.
At least you should be with the
Yeah.
wrong guy at least once, right?
Yeah. And then
Or
you should
girl,
find the right
if
guy.
that's your thing.
If
too.
that's your thing.
So,
I also, so I think a lot of readers, a lot of tarot readers and other forms of diviners, we are very serious about our practice. We're very thoughtful and humble about what our gifts can do and what our practice is like. But I think many of us love Hollywood style, like almost charlatanry, like the trappings of fortune teller, like
the
fortune
OTT
teller parlor.
part.
Yes, and the book has that in spades.
Yes.
Especially the character that she plays, the Marquise de Morville, which is like, I love that Leviathan is like, oh, I've got this. So all of the other readers and witches are commoners, right?
Mhm.
And they can only go so far. And this is historically true. Mary Greer has an excellent post about this, and she's talked about this at workshops where looking at the art history of fortune tellers, almost always you are seeing a lower class woman reading for an upper class woman, often of a different race.
Mhm.
And that's a big part of the practice. But
Mhm.
with the Marquise, she creates the Marquise to be this otherworldly creature who's unlike, and because Genevieve is so well spoken, so she's so proper and knows big words that other girls don't.
And is actually from aristocracy on like her mother's side or something.
Yes,
Yeah.
she's I forget she's an aristocrat. So she gets turned into this character that's 120 years old, like you mentioned, and she goes around. The book opens with a description of her walking up to the police inspector, and she's wearing a black gown, a black veil that trails behind her, and is being carried by a little person in Turkish dress. She's got a walking stick that's as tall as she is, with a silver head of an owl on it. She's got these ornate rings with dragons and skulls on them, and her face is bone white, and she's got
And she's
black
still wearing
bags.
a ruff.
And yeah, she's wearing like the
Like
collar.
from the 1500s. Yeah.
Yes, and she's like, so because she's supposed to be so out of date, right? And I just wanted to be her when I read it. I think you're getting to be this. Okay, so I don't know if I've gotten to do event reading, and when you're an event tarot reader, you get to be in costume, you get to be a carny, and you get to have the goofy trappings and the weird candles and and the skulls or whatever it is you want to have in your setup. You get to do that because it's a party, everyone's fine with it, but it's fun to be that. And I will say, when you're playing a character, you can sometimes be a better reader. This was a technique that Rachel Pollack taught that you can find online called Dr. Apollo's School for Bad Fortune Telling. And I've actually done this in a workshop where you have every person in the room comes up with an alternate identity, an over-the-top fictional identity for yourself as a reader. So you're the deposed Carpathian prince, you're the goddess of another dimension, you're, I don't know.
The Marquis de Movie.
More 120-year-old alchemist. And you come up with the history of your deck and your secret rituals and so you do all of this, and then you have to give readings as this person. And so you're a little over the top. But what happens is when you're pretending to be someone who's a confident reader, it makes you a more confident reader. So I use this technique when I want people to learn how to do prediction, because a lot of people are too scared to read cards predictively. They just want to give advice and self-help. So you get them to be this character, do these predictions as a reader. And then after that, I always have them, you put the character aside, we're not, you are you, do a predictive reading, and people can do it who were afraid to before.
Yeah. It's funny. Charles sent me the link to this Dr. Apollo School of Bad Fortune Telling. And so I was thinking about it. So I have only done like one event reading for charity because I do not feel that I'm a confident enough reader to charge people money for it. But I did one for charity where, they just paid and had like 15-minute readings throughout the day. And I did exactly that. I didn't know that I was, from a long line of Rachel Pollack's brilliance doing it. But, I did my whole witchy persona dress. I had the cloths on my table. I brought like a crystal ball. I did the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And then I just was like, okay, whatever comes out of my mouth, that's real. And
yes.
And it worked.
It does.
And I had a great time.
It does.
And it was the last day before COVID shut down the world. No, I haven't done it since.
I'm so glad that happened. Well, it can happen again. One of the things it does is, okay, again, kind of like witchcraft, but tarot reading had to go mainstream in a big way. And it was so important that for people to know tarot readers, they look just like you and me, and we have the same problem. Like, we got rid of a lot of the trappings. And as the pendulum swings back and we're embracing that a bit more, and you can get too into aesthetics, but what the aesthetics do, the character, the costume, but the setting, what all of it is, it creates a liminal space so that both you and the querent can believe in this operation. Because a lot, depending on what your style of fortune telling is, and if you're a reader who only reads psychologically and for self-help, that's absolutely great, and that's a perfect way to read tarot. But if you want to do prediction, it's an absurd thing that we're trying to do. And so it helps the brain let go of the doubt, to have the trappings and to be the character and to get into the operation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really does. Like, it's, I think about that now because I hadn't realized that's what I was doing. I just knew I was like somewhat not confident that I was going to be able to pull it off, but I wanted to do it because it just seemed like a good time. And I read oracle cards. I didn't read tarot, which for me, like, and I don't know, like, I love tarot cards. Like, I love the story and the history and the complexity and how, the Rider-Waite-Smith came to be, I love all of that. But oracle cards for me as a writer are so symbolic and simple. Like, it's really easy for me to like lay out 3 oracle cards and tell you a story with those 3. It's like a writing prompt for my brain almost.
Love it. Yeah. So I was, when I got to work with Wiley, and maybe we'll talk about this more at the end, but they wanted the book to they'd done tarot for dummies already years ago. And so this new edition, they wanted to be tarot and oracle card reading for dummies. They didn't really know why. They just knew that oracle cards were important.
Right.
And it really got to get into what is different about oracle card reading. And one of the things, I mean, we'll talk about more of this later, but right now, one of the things about reading an oracle cards is with the tarot, there's this sense, even though it's not true, that there's an official, real meaning that the original creators, and that's, of course, this is not true historically, but that meant, and that we're getting it not quite right. With oracle cards, they're fresh. They're like, this was just designed last week. So, like, your guess is as good as mine. The author may have had intent.
Like, the person who created the deck had intent, but like all art, when it's out in the world, it's up for interpretation.
Yes, absolutely. And so, but sorry, back to the oracle glass. One of the things that I love about I hate the word trope, but I'm going to use it. A trope,
it's a thing. Like, it's official terminology for writing.
It has become it, but so a trope that I hate in witch fiction is the idea that if a female witch has sex or falls in love, she loses her powers. And you see this in Bell Book and Candle. You see this in Live and Let Die, James Bond movie. You see this even like, there's like a 1980s Hercules movie.
I mean, it's kind of the trope behind practical magic too, really. Like, I mean, it's so embedded. Yeah.
Yeah. And what I hate that, obviously, and it's so disempowering, and you never see it directed towards men ever. It's only women. And so what I love in this book, it starts out with this idea because the style of reading she does is oracle. So we would call it water scrying. It's known at the time that only virgins can do it. So only young girls do that practice. And then she is sexually assaulted by her uncle. And you think maybe, oh no, maybe she lost the power. But no, of course not. It has nothing to do with that. And she has to tell her clients that she's lived so long and so virtuously that she's been re-virginized. So that they'll believe that she has the power.
Yeah.
So I love when that trope can be turned on its head. I mean, it happened in, of all things, I don't know if this is a good movie or not, but the Scorpion King, Kelly Hu, like it's clear that her long line of sorceresses she comes from made up this rule about not having sex because to keep men from doing untoward things to them. But yeah, they can read just fine.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, and I do like I think that one of the things that tropes can serve is to turn them on their head.
Yeah.
And that's that's to me the mark of a good writer is like, yes, I'm going to write into this trope, but I'm going to make it mine.
Yes.
And I think, Merkle does that really well. And part of that, I think, is because she was writing from a feminist perspective. I mean, these are feminist books.
Yes.
So I think that comes from it. And which reminds me, I thought it was really interesting in kind of our before recording discussions, you talked about the fact that you were really worried that you would not go back and like this book when you read it again, that it would not have aged well. Yeah,
I wasn't sure because sometimes you're like, you can't go home again, and I wondered if it would seem like maybe a little too silly in places at the end, or if it would seem too unseemly because of the connection with the poisoners and all of that. But no, I just wanted to be in her world. And get out, again.
Yeah, but I think I think it has aged well. I mean, it's not perfect. I mean, it is still of its time.
Yeah.
But it's still aged pretty well, and I think that might be because of where she wrote them from, like the position she was writing them from.
Yeah, I also like when sometimes it's a little jarring when a character in historical fiction immediately has 21st century morals about certain things. So a great part in the book for me is when she meets La Trianon and La Daudet, who are two lesbians who are alchemists and readers and things like that. And she has sort of backwards ideas that she thinks that they are hermaphrodites, and asks them about that. And it's clear that Merkle is pro-lesbian in the book because they're laughing at her and no, that is not how you are very mistaken. And what I loved is later when she goes to La Trianon for advice, La Trianon's like, oh, well, your big problem is you're just too obsessed with men.
Yes.
Like, why do you let these men rule you? You'd be the queen of the witches.
Your life away on men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also, you like witch fiction. It's a hard time if you don't like witch trials. I really don't like a witch trial fiction, and there's so many good ones out there. And you mentioned Practical Magic, the Magic Lessons book, which is the third one, and that is features a witch trial, so I didn't want to read it, and it's very good. And Brahms' Slowfoot has a big witch trial part, and like I just hate that trope, but I think this one has just the right amount. It's real, and then but she mainly gets out kind of before all the real bad stuff happens. It's really
like you realize that kind of happens after the end of the book. I mean, the end of the book, it's beginning. Yeah. But yeah.
And she also does the thing of, so how do if these people can really see the future, well, how would this bad stuff happen to them? And it's that the ego gets in the way, which is just like in real life, like whether it's divination or if you're an economist, doesn't matter that you have this knowledge of how things are probably going to go. If your ego gets in the way, it'll foul things up.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I think it's interesting because like when we meet the main character at the beginning, when Dubec and
with the beautiful thighs, our playwright Lamont, yes, Andre Lamont.
Like when we meet them, and they're Andre and Dubec are students, and she is basically a student of her father's at this point. And they have this kind of idealism about philosophy, and Dubec jokingly calls her Athena because her Greek isn't very good, and this kind of whole thing. And then as they come back together, as this kind of circles around at the end of the book, you realize yes, like you said, she's not like other girls, has this moment of I am like other girls, but then she falls back, and her partner at the end of the book also falls back on this idea about where they really came from, this kind of natural philosophy, Greek and Roman classical learning. They kind of use that to escape in many ways.
I love her. So her love of is it, no, it's not the geometry or geometric philosophy.
Oh, the geometric philosophy.
Yeah. So
geometric principles or geometric
yes.
proof. Yeah.
Yeah. So
which is not really geometry in the way.
Well, like what I love is that it's a little, I enjoy that. It's not anachronistic. It's how people thought, but like these people think they're using certain principles and sometimes they're right. But when she's learning about it, she's a little girl. And so she has her little notebook and she writes down things like she puts on her mother's perfume and like some monkey comes after her and she writes down monkeys are attracted to perfume.
Yes.
And like, or like if something happens, she'll be like, this doesn't work, and she's applying that as it's you see what happens when she's a little girl using these principles, and then you see her as an adult using these principles, and she's grown.
And I love that the code for her books is French written with Greek letters, which kind of gets her called out later. But
yeah, there's so it's like there's a good cat and mouse thing going on in this book, and it reminded me of the Pink Panther series where you want to have, or the Day of the Jackal or any of those where you have the criminal and you have the law enforcement, the federales, are coming for her, and you're rooting for the criminal, obviously, in this one. I am. And but seeing them be so frustrated by her and this impudent woman just is very thrilling throughout the book.
Yeah. So I'm curious. So when did you read this book the first time?
I read this book in my, I think, like early 20s when I just wanted to read anything witch fiction at all. And it was recommended to me by Carrie Paris, who is an amazing deck creator and divinatory tool creator. And she really introduced the world to charm reading, metal charm readings. And she knew that I would like this book because it's a beautiful blend of how divination works and fantasy, and I really enjoyed it.
So what impact do you think it's had, like either on your practice or on your writing since then?
That's a great question. I definitely know that it made me a little into the idea of the fictional character, being a character and allowing that to be a part of your practice. I know that was a thing for me. I think when I read about her, I want to be walking around Paris in my version of the Marquise de Morville's getup, and I think also, okay, every tarot reader I've ever met wishes they were more confident. I remember I was at some event and Mary Greer's talking, and she said, I wish I was more confident. I'm like, okay, Mary Greer, if you're not confident, what hope is there for any of us, right? And I think that she has a confidence that I liked and wanted to have myself.
Yeah. I thought one of the things that I thought was interesting is how they talk about like her, like you described it as her watching television. And La Voisin describes it as it shows too much and not enough. And you tell too much. Like you have to not only learn to just tell what you see, but to interpret it.
That is absolutely. And so La Voisin, for some of that, it's that she needs to be manipulating these clients. But a lot of young readers want to just tell it like it is and tell you what you see and just put it out there. And it's, it's for yours to deal with in kind of a Queen of Swords kind of way. And that's not the best. We should all be really reading with humility, I think, if you want to be successful. But it's very easy as a reader to get into an ego place of, oh, I know what's going on. I see all. And like you look at kind of anyone giving advice, but if someone comes to you for advice and you look at the cards and you think like, well, I know what your problem is. And I know all you need to do is this, and that, just get a whole lot richer, have self-control that you've never had before, and stop liking the wrong people. It's solved. Right. And that's not how it goes. That's not a sensible way to read.
So interestingly, I feel like this ties into your new book because one of the parts I liked in your book is when you talk about examining your own biases when interpreting the cards, either for yourself or for other people. And if your answer for everyone is you need to drop that guy or you need to, buckle down and work harder, perhaps you are reading from a place of bias.
Yes. So if you ever read most tarot books are not read cover to cover, but if you ever read anyone's tarot book cover to cover, you really get a strong idea of what they think the world is. And then there's one reader I love, but her view of life is if everyone was just not naughty, they would be fine. And okay, if you go
boring.
and very boring. But if you go into any place where people are asking about tarot readings, the number one question is, what is he thinking about me? And the number two question is he going to come back to me? And every reader says they hate that question, and they roll their eyes, and they think the answer is always no. And whenever if you go into places where people are giving readings online, the answer is never yes. Is he coming back to me? Because unfortunately, the readers seem to think well, if you came to me, then the answer is no, because it's hopeless. And I did a little research, and I know there was a couple studies, but one prominent one for me was 50% of all breakups result in the couple getting back together at least once. Mm-hmm. And the reason for that is a large number of breakups are happen for ambivalent reasons. And it's just important for the reader to not know the answer before they cut the deck. Mm-hmm. It's important. I mean, if you're clairvoyant, maybe that's how you read. But if you're a tarot reader, let the cards tell us, please.
Yeah. Well, I do think there is that. And I love that this book kind of examines that too. I think, we kind of in mainstream culture poo-poo people who have any of the clairs, right?
Oh, yeah.
These people can't be real. And I'm like, it's not that weird to me to think that people can know things.
Yeah.
Just because of how the world works.
Yes.
And depending on, and I've had moments where I'm like, in my friend group, I'm like, oh, they're going to get back together. And immediately it happens. And it may be not clairvoyance. It may be just I know these people so well and I can see the signals. I could be reading the people more than having some divine knowledge step into my head.
Yes. So I think as we know, but for a long time, the only clair any of us knew about was clairvoyance. Mm-hmm. And the idea that if you didn't see a scene in a crystal ball, in the movies, like Wizard of Oz or something, that maybe then you're not a clairvoyant. And the clair that I think a lot of people are kind of warming up to is claircognizance, which is clear knowing. Which
is kind of more like what I feel like my little tiny bit is more like that. Yeah.
It's like knowing the answer to the question and not knowing how you know it, right? And also, if it's not coming from a place of bias, which is the hardest thing in the world, but a useful skill. And that's actually why I think the cards are helpful, because they provide an opportunity to say something you wouldn't normally say. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of readers have a hard time giving advice they wouldn't just normally give anyway. So, for example, if someone comes to you and says, "I'm in love with a married man," and you would never say yes, then your cards tend to never say yes. But a woman I know has been with her husband for 50 years. When they got together, he had another wife. It can happen, and it can work out really well. Yeah. And it's putting our morals. I'm not, you get to decide if you're going to take the reading or not. But if you're going to take the reading, then you have to be open to the answer being yes.
Yeah. Well, and I think, like you said, if it's based on your personal experience or based on what you think is common knowledge, even if he cheats with you, then he's going to leave you and cheat with somebody else. Yes, that happens a lot if the person's a cheater.
Yeah. Yeah.
If this is just they're in a bad marriage and they meet someone who actually lights their spark, that may not happen. And like you said, that's a unfortunate situation, but that doesn't mean that person is going to leave them.
Yes.
And if you just assume, then you're going to give them bad advice.
Absolutely. In the book, I do talk about, one of the things that was wild is normally when you write a tarot book, you're writing in third person, and you have to say things like we or one must, And Wiley, for Dummies book, is written in first and second person, and I never written in first person. I never talk about myself. And when you talk about yourself as a reader, you do it without ego. You can talk about all your mistakes and all the things that have happened. You can tell stories. And one of my favorites in there is that I was doing a reading for a woman. I gave her reading, and she's like, "Oh my God, thank you. This exactly." And it was a general reading. I was just kind of telling her, I told her, you no longer have to continue the struggle that you're having right now. And she's like, oh God, I'm 6 months away. I'm one semester away from graduating with a degree in accounting, and I hate it. And I know I don't want to do it. I want to be an artist. Thank you. And she walks off, and I wanted to chase her down and be like, wait. Like, like, well, let's talk this through. Let's finish the degree. But like, that wasn't, she's not asking for my advice. Why would she ask for my advice? She's asking for the cards, right? Advice. So there's been things like, I don't know. I remember reading for someone, and they were asking about buying a house, and the 7 of Swords came up, and I was like, oh, I think you need to be careful. I think someone is lying about their finances. And the person I was talking to said, oh no, that's me. We want to qualify for this. We've decided we're going to lie about one particular thing so we can get it. And I look at the cards and I'm like, well, that looks like it works. It looks like it works out for you. So, and it did. They're still in that house, by the way. So
wow. Yeah.
It's,
Yeah. So that not being naughty thing might not pan out for everybody.
Yeah. And I don't want to make people think that I only tell people to do bad things. Most of the time, doing the sensible thing is the correct answer. Most of the time, if someone comes to you with a particular, like, this relationship's just not working out, what should I do? Like, the answer is it's not going to work out. Like, but you have to be open.
Yeah.
Is my advice.
And I mean, thankfully, most of us, I don't know all witches and oracles, but are not dealing with like court intrigue that's going to get you killed or imprisoned if you say something wrong. So
don't read for the king.
Don't read for the king. It's a bad idea.
When she reads for the king, I'm very excited for her.
Don't read about the king either, according to their rules.
Don't read about the king. That's actually, a great thing in this book are the fortune teller duels. She goes up against this gentleman, Primi Visconti, and tarot fans know that Visconti is the name of the first tarot deck, the Visconti Sforza. He's Italian, and she goes to these parties where she's sort of pitted against him, and it's fun to have this dueling banjos thing go on with the fortune tellers.
Because he's a graphologist in the book, right? He's a graphologist.
Yes, and a phrenologist. Oddly, a woman in my family was a phrenologist. My great aunt read men's heads, like the bumps on their heads, which is not a very sexy.
No, and well, now it's also tied with a lot of weird eugenic bullshit too.
Yeah, so, yeah. I don't hold with that, but I think this was like 1920s Scotland, so it was just a lot of lumpy white Scottish people, apparently. It was who she was reading for. But yeah.
Interesting.
But those are just fun scenes. As a reader, like, it's just great to see these little battles happen, because so often in books, an oracle scene is this big dramatic otherworldly moment where a big pronouncement is made. And the truth is, for a lot of history, especially when we think about things like Lenormand, fortune telling was a parlor game that people believed in, but they treated like a fun little activity.
Yeah. Well, it's like the Ouija board was like, made by Parker Brothers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people played with it until like Satanic Panic made it something evil.
Yeah, made it cooler.
So, yeah. Well, and I think I've read so much in the last 2 weeks that my brain is a little like source amnesia problem. But I think in your book you talk about the Pythia from the Oracle of Delphi and how people always assume that they were backhanded and not clear. And like, it turns out that's not actually how it worked.
Oh my God, y'all, if you want to be impressed with a historical figure, read about the Pythia, because at the Northwest Tarot Symposium, I gave a keynote and it was based on the Pythia. It was kind of lessons you can learn from the Pythia. But I kind of grew up with what you find out is actually like the Victorian British idea about the Pythia, that she was just some peasant woman that was muttering in a bunch of vapors, and then learned priests would write in hexameter verse something that could be seen either way, could be yes or no, and it's a scam. That's the view that people had. But when you get into what we actually have about the Pythia, you find out that, oh heck, like, no, she was giving straightforward answers. And one of the things I thought was beautiful was so these learned men from England, they knew that she couldn't have written the verses because they're in hexameter verse, and these are illiterate women. Well, what we now know from linguists is the person who can write extemporaneously in hexameter verse are illiterate people, because it's as a like an oracle tradition, an oral tradition,
Right.
like the Odyssey and the Iliad.
Mm.
These people were very adept at like basically doing freestyle rap.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
it's just
That later got copied down.
yeah.
Yeah.
And people went to her with their constitutions. The first constitution, like, because these people were inventing democracy at various times, and so the Spartans went to her, and she would give answers about the finer points of their constitutions. And I want to add this. Famously, the Spartans went to her, and they were the most decadent, wealthy nations in ancient Greece. They were wealthy merchant class, and they had all of the stuff and they go to the oracle, and she says, the love of gold above all else will be the destruction of Sparta. They go back and they change their economic system to no longer be gold based. This ascetic Spartan, when we talk about something being very Spartan, and we mean like asceticism and things like that, that came from the Pythia, from them being like, well, we got to change this. Like, they changed their economic system because of, like, this was not a bunch of knowing men going about the motions of doing a religious ritual they didn't believe in with the Pythia. She was very talented. And sorry, I'm kind of getting, but I just want to give a shout out to a book I read recently called Ancient Oracles, Making the Gods Speak. And it gets really into what really happened in both the Delphi and also throughout the ancient world. So like Greece and Turkey and neighboring places, and a little bit of like Asian divination as well, like Tibet. What the actual practices were, and what we can, so it gets into dream incubation and all of this stuff. It's a very good book because the if you're a diviner, the world of divination back then is not what you've been told. It's not this cynical thing that we've been told it was.
Yeah.
That's my soapbox moment.
Just put another book on my have to read list. Thank you.
I'm so sorry. I'm also not sorry. It's really good. It's really good. Making the Gods Speak. And you can read it. You can read it in chunks if you'd like. Each section is kind of very different. There's other books. There's other books about Delphi that are very great. The one is just called The Oracle, and it's quite good. But I would say Making the Gods Speak is sort of goes across the ancient world in a cool way, in an inspiring way.
That. Yeah, I like that. So if people want to read other books about oracles of different kinds, are there other ones like this one that you feel like kind of get it right, or you would recommend to people, or what others do you feel like do this well?
I bet are you familiar with the book Andromeda Klein?
No.
Okay, Andromeda Klein is a immense, thick, young adult novel about a young, I think she's like in 8th grade, and she's obsessed with the Order of the Golden Dawn. And it's like first person, it's from her period, and she's like to the point that she's giving herself like Bic pen tattoos of sigils, like, which I don't think young people should be doing. But and she has a huge crush on Arthur Edward Waite. There's like Arthur
what an
Edward
odd
Waite,
person to have a crush on.
She's just a different kind of bird, and I think that Arthur Edward Waite is her dude, and I just remember being like, what? but okay.
You don't have to read much about him to go, why?
yeah. But what's satisfying is just that she's this very particular wacky character, and she's just kind of like that. If you weren't her, maybe you knew her, like that goth girl who carried around like really like weighty, like Crowley, material. Actually, she finds Crowley very obnoxious in the book. But
I think Waite did too.
Yes, I think so. And I think that was a thing. Also, I think that we're getting into, if you like cozy mysteries, you can find some fun reads that have to do with tarot and other things. The White Magic Five and Dime is a cozy mystery about a fortune teller, a reader who, I don't know why I'm shying. I like the word fortune teller. She's a fortune teller, and
I have that. It's in my TBR pile. I haven't read it yet, but
I got to talk to the author once. He's lovely. I think that one also does a very relatable job of that, and a book I wouldn't heartily recommend, but it's kind of like sometimes you want to read trash. So okay, this sounds when I buy trash, I mean like it's it's um is it Jackson Square Jazz or um Bourbon Street Blues. Bourbon Street Blues is the story of a fortune telling psychic go-go boy in New Orleans, and he's in his early 20s. And by trash, I just mean he's sort of like into the scene. He's a go-go boy. He's into himself and how beautiful he is and the effect he has on men. But he also has these psychic flashes that are, it's a beach read. And I mean that in a good way. I think there's a time to have a beach read, and on the beach, you want to retreat. It's a gay version of a cozy mystery, a little more spicy than the Void Magic Five and Dime. Mm-hmm. So I think that those are there. I think there's more and more we are getting the books that are better ways of telling fiction with fortune tellers, where they're not a side character who gives a prophecy that no one listens to until the end of the book.
Yes, or they're like ridiculed actually in the book and then it turns out they were right. That's the other trope, right? I
love that. Like so I think on television a lot, when there's a fortune teller character, they have to the best they can do at the end is like leave it ambiguous as to whether or not they were right or not. And because we live in a cynical age, and I think I think even that's improving. I think we're getting characters now who are a little more gifted. Yeah, obviously, it is a problem in fiction to have a character who can see the future. So you have to find ways to thwart them or get them to doubt themselves. But if you can do it, it's great.
Mm-hmm. Well,
also because,
Oh, well, I think one of the ways that Merkle does it in this book is like the recurring image that Genevieve has, she doesn't really understand until much later.
Yes.
Like it does foreshadow, but the character doesn't understand it.
Yeah. But we do. It's like she sees herself, well, because we know what's happening in the affair of the poisons, maybe. And then, but she sees herself on the bow of a ship. And she's like, well, I don't know what that means. And we're like, girl, get out.
And the first time she sees it, she doesn't even realize it's her.
Yes. Yes. But also, it changes because in her view, you can change fate, which is a good question. Can we change our fate? I think, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that was one thing I did really like her approach to that. It was like, yes, the central meaning of the image didn't change. Like, yes, this was going to be what happens at the end, but the surroundings of it continue to change. And as she understands it more deeply and as she makes different decisions, it changes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. And it's, if you've never done this, everyone should ask their cards whether or not tarot, what is tarot reading? What is divination? How does this work? Ask the cards. And, I was brave one time. Mary Greer and I were on a call, and Barbara Moore and I are on a call. And by the way, I'm not name dropping. The tarot world can fit in a ballroom, and everyone likes each other, and everyone's willing to hang out and talk. There's no hierarchy in tarot. Barbara Moore on a call, and we're like, well, let's ask. What is fortune telling? What is tarot reading? And we got the Five of Wands, which is the card of chaos. And we drew our conclusions from that, that I was a little like, I needed smelling salts, to get up off the floor. Like, no, but then it suggested to me that we are in the present and that multiple futures can diverge and the tarot reading can influence which future you take.
Yeah. I've always thought of it like whether you're tea leaf reading oracle cards, tarot cards, whatever your mechanism is, that to me, that chaos description is really good because it's like all of this is swirling around and then you're like sticking your finger on something to hold it still for a minute.
Absolutely. That makes sense.
That's what you're seeing is like, if you just, it's like what is the quantum physics thing? Like it can be observed or it can't, like if it's observed, it does something different. And that's kind of what it's like for me. Not that I really understand quantum physics. Don't misunderstand me, but my very layperson's idea.
I do not even begin to dream of understanding quantum physics. But in the book, she's reading for the king, and he asks about how far she can see into the future, and her answer is that the far future is hard to see, but the immediate future is easy because there's no more choices. And like that is how I think of this. And so what I tell people is imagine an hourglass with sand falling through it. If you pick a grain of sand near the top, when will it fall? Like hard to say. A lot is going to change. But when you get right down to that narrow little waist of the hourglass, things are you can see which grain of sand is going to fall next. And that's how I think of divination.
Yeah. Well, I do appreciate that you are comfortable with the divinatory aspect and the fortune telling aspect. Because I do think like this movement, I mean, I do like the idea of using it as kind of like a tool to understand what you're thinking.
Yes.
But I also want there to be the mystic and the magical about it too. Like I want both those things to be true.
For a long time, I was worried that like, do I believe that I can tell the future because I want to be able to, or I just don't want to live in a world that is where we are just chemicals and at the end of it is oblivion, but you can practice. If you're a good tarot reader, you have a tarot journal and you're keeping track and you can tell when you get it right and if you get it wrong, can you see why you got it wrong? And of course, some readings you look back and you're like, I don't know how I would ever have read that as, recently I had a job interview and I wanted to know if I was going to make it to the next round. And I got the 3 of Cups reversed. I'm like, well, that's a no. And I did the thing you should never do as a tarot reader. I like almost immediately asked the same question again. And then I did the thing you really ought not to do, which is like a couple days later, I read it again. And each time pulling from different decks, I got the 3 of Cups reversed. And I kept thinking, well, like this is a clear no. And then I got to the next round. And I called our mutual friend Benabel and I was like, tell me how you would have interpreted that. And she's like, well, no, I would have interpreted the way you would have, but it's one of the ways you read reversals is delayed. So like, yes, friendly connection, but delayed. And it did take a while to get to the next round, but I did. So, yeah.
Because you were looking for a simple yes or no. So you interpreted it as a no.
And it gave me one.
And you really wanted a yes.
Yes. I wanted, there's a mistake I think readers get into is they think that whether or not the card looks happy or sad is the same as yes or no. And you have to go beyond that, you know, like it's the metaphor. Like, I don't know. I'm not one of those people who likes the tower. Those people are crazy. Unless you're listening to this, in which case I'm here to tell you, you're absolutely correct. Please buy my book.
Yeah.
So, no.
Yeah, I the tower is the card that gives me the most of the heebs. Like the other ones that are negative, I can kind of like work my way, but the tower makes me nervous.
Yeah, I think the tower, I think of it kind of like the Affair of the Poisons and Genevieve, in that like you have an opportunity to get out of the building. Like now is the time. Like the mistake is to stay. The mistake is to freeze. Yeah. And she doesn't. She handles it, you know. Yeah. And I appreciate that, but I think that is for me the tower. Like when it shows up, it's like, well, then we can't act surprised, you know, when this happens. Yeah. So.
I mean, I think a lot of this book boils down to like, and this is oversimplifying it a great deal for people who are listening who have not read the book, is this idea of cleverness and paying attention and hubris and how that makes you see reality.
Yes, because her main clientele is aristocratic women who all want to be the king's mistress. That's like the number one goal of all people. And everything is about taking out your enemy. And so no one is asking, what can I do for my greatest and highest good?
Right.
What would be the best thing for me? A lot of these people don't they only have one goal. And so we as readers, modern readers, know that you want to ask a little bit more of an open-ended. I'm not big on changing the question for people, but you know, a little bit more of an open question
Yeah.
is good.
Well, she also does something in the book, and I meant to ask you about this earlier,
Yeah.
but I want to ask it, is that she agrees to tell people how they'll die, but they have to
Mm.
pay in advance.
Yeah, I love that part, actually, when you said that. It's like, I always ask for payment in advance for that question.
And I was like, oh, I would never agree to do that.
I don't think um I don't think it's helpful to do that reading. I
Mm.
think people do ask. And okay, I will to step back a bit. A lot of readers have the long list of things they don't do,
Hmm.
and that's all well and good to create until you're at the table and someone sits in front of you. And so people who are like, don't do medical readings, but someone with stage 4 cancer is going to sit down in front of you someday and ask for reading. And they're not asking for you to give a medical diagnosis.
They have that
a
already.
doctor. Yeah, I think Benabel talks about this really, really well in her material, where they have a whole team. They have family and friends that they go to for support. They have a medical team. You're their mystical team, and there's things that you can do in those moments. So if anyone asks you how they're going to die, I think it's very fair to ask them why they want. Like, tell them why is this the question? What's going on for you?
Yeah.
Because instead of just shutting them down and saying like no, you are like, you might come to something helpful. I've made mistakes in my life. I was reading and someone asked me about committing suicide.
Oh.
And I thought I could be helpful. And I tried to give a very positive reading, like, oh no, look at all this good stuff. And I was really pushing the reading towards this good stuff. If you're screaming at the podcast right now, yes, I agree with you. But like, dear listener, but I try to tell this really positive story, and the response to me is like, my life doesn't look like that at all. You don't know what you're talking about. The thing I would do now is you should have a list of crisis hotlines that you can call, and that they can call, and so for something that severe. So if someone asks about death, and you get to it that's what they're talking about, maybe suicide, self-harm, or they think someone's about to harm them, that they are in a place of danger. There's things you can do, but there's times when you should not be the reader. Does that make sense? Did I answer the question at all?
That makes sense to me.
I've never have I.
And I think it's more nuanced.
I
think that's a good point. Like I said, I would never do that, but I think you're right. I think you have to realize that you're always going to have to negotiate with never.
Yeah. There's things. Anything I've ever said I would never read for has shown up.
Yeah.
At the table.
Sometimes I think we call those things when we do things like that. Like,
yeah.
Oh yeah, well, let me show you.
Yeah. Well, or just like, I think the role of the fortune teller is sometimes people need an answer that they cannot get elsewhere. And I had I have a very corporate day job, and one of my colleagues came to me, and she'd been really, really trying to have a baby several times, and she'd had a miscarriage like days before, and she was back at the office, and she wanted a reading, and I gave a reading. And again, I'm not giving her a medical reading. I'm not, her doctor, and she had a doctor, but I did do that reading. And, the answer was, this wasn't the time. There's things going on with you physically. You are going to, she has 3 children now, I'm happy to say, so, but she was in tears. And the thing that I could do to be of service to this planet was to give that reading at that time. And as opposed to, I think some tarot readers just want to give pushy advice to people.
Yeah. Well, and I just, I agree with Genevieve, I don't think the future's written in stone.
Yeah, I agree.
So I feel like as a reader, especially if someone is coming to you who does think in terms of this person is going to tell me my future,
mm-hmm.
You kind of have to be careful, because self-fulfilling prophecy is a thing.
Yeah, it absolutely is. You have to be careful, and you have to have humility as a reader, because people will point to Sylvia Brown, famous psychic from the previous, she gave a reading on air, to a woman whose daughter had gone missing, and she told the woman that her daughter was dead. She had these visions of her being held underwater, and she said, "You will never see her again." She got that part right. The woman never saw her again. She passed away before her daughter was found, who was a kidnap victim and spent years and years. And when you get down to it, everything Sylvia read was correct, down to like the visuals of her being held down and her not seeing her again. But she was wrong. And so to the layperson, like, well, this is not real. She's a con artist, And I don't know. I do not know Sylvia. Did not know Sylvia. I don't know if she's a con artist or not. But you have to have humility as a reader. If I think I've said that 4 times on this call.
That's the thing that's important, I think, to say that. So last time you and I chatted about a book, we did a 1-card tarot pool. Do you want to do one?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have a deck with you?
I do have a deck.
Yes. What's our question?
Maybe let's come up with a question together. Last time it was easy because we were asking Rachel a question.
We asked her actually about death.
Yeah.
We asked what death was.
Yeah.
And she gave us the answer.
Yeah, we asked what it was.
We do ask about death, kids.
Yes. So the deck I have today is the Tarot of the Cosmic Seed. Do you know this
beautiful deck? I do not. That's gorgeous.
The thing I like about it is it's kind of a collage deck, but it's very inclusive. There's just like images from all kinds of cultures, and it's just really beautiful. I really like it. And it in the current trend, it has shiny blue edges.
We do love our edges these days on our decks. People in their cardstock. Sometimes I'm like shuffling with planks, and I'm like,
I know.
Why did
so thick?
So I think what people don't understand is tarot cards should be kind of flippy if they're going to survive and if they're going to be shuffleable, and they're pretty resilient, more than you'd think. And a lot of decks get reviewed as, it's bad cardstock. I'm like, no, it's not. That's like,
yeah. Well, I think that's like the first tarot decks I had were like plain cardstock, like the woven plain cardstock, and I never see those anymore.
No. So, okay. If you ever hang out with old tarot collectors, we can wax eloquent about Belgian printing. The Rider-Waite Smith, as it was printed like around the 90s, was printed in Belgium by Carta Mundi. And I can feel that what that was like, that matte finish. And like I have there's tarot collectors who can, like, if you hand them a Rider-Waite and they feel it, they can tell you where it was printed, because there's that level of knowledge. I'm not that
fancy, but I do appreciate the idea. I do appreciate the idea of it, though.
Yeah.
Okay, so what should we ask this lovely deck?
What if there's 2 cards? One is what should we understand? Okay, I don't know. Like, I'm gonna say, like, what is divination, but like, what maybe should we understand about what divination is right now, and then how can we be better at it? Is the second card.
Okay, great. So I will pull the first one. I'm just doing a fan pull since people can't see me.
There we go. Yes.
So the first one is the Star reversed.
Wild.
And the second card is Death.
Well, oh, good.
Wow. So I will show you the artwork. Yeah. You can see that because they're a little different. They're not traditional artwork.
Oh, that's beautiful.
This is the Star.
That's the Star.
So for listeners, it is a very dark-skinned Black woman with a head wrap with like kente cloth. And then around her, these old-fashioned rhinestone brooches, including one that kind of crowns the whole image.
Yes.
And then the other one is a death's head.
Yes.
Crowned with roses, and then a snake has woven its way in and out of the eye holes.
And a moth flying above it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So real quick, just before we begin, when you read reversals, do you have a particular philosophy of reversals?
So I kind of think of them a little bit opposite, or sometimes at a oblique angle. Not necessarily like a true opposite, but like there's a different perspective on the card.
Yeah.
Which comes from reading, weirdly, from round decks in the 90s.
Oh my goodness, that's so funny. Yeah. Oh yeah, because they turned more to the right or to the left. Yeah, so. A more feminist approach to reversals. It's a good deck. So the first thing, so it's funny, Barbara Moore, a criticism she has of me, and it's very accurate, is I'll get the answer, and then I'll try and talk myself into any other way to view it because I don't trust myself. And she's like, why do you waste all of our time with that? Why don't you just go with the answer? The star reversed. If the star is hope and healing and light, then the star reversed is hopelessness and or having that light hidden from us, being in a place bereft of that kind of uplifting feeling. And I think the question is, does that mean like that is when people come to you as a diviner?
My thing would be kind of that oblique angle that maybe it's searching for that light.
Searching for the light. Yeah. Okay. I think that is a stronger answer. And I think that, so we'll get back to that one in a second, but the death card you have there, particularly, it has the stark skull, but it has the moth and the snake, and snakes shed their skin and moths the metamorphs. These are very strong, well-known symbols. I think it's also
like such a knowledge symbol too. Like there's so much to me, like it's the knowing, but I mean, death itself to me is like the ultimate mystery.
Yes. And I think but I think also it's like, as things are closing around a person, divination helps them open a new door. It helps them be reborn because something's not working in their life.
Yeah.
And they need a transformation, and death can be that transformation.
How do we interpret that to how we can be better oracles?
Yes. One, to help. Your job is to help people find the light, and they need to leave your table, even if they didn't get the answer that they wanted. They need to leave the table better than when they sat down, or you need to have done the best that you can to put them in that position. You don't you can't chew people's food for them. But so if they're searching for that hope, that light, be that, and then in their moments of, not every tarot reading is a crisis, but in their moments of needing to transform, help them to find that new skin. Does that make sense? That. What do you get from it?
Well, and I also think about like the cycle of birth and death and growth. Like, so death is kind of, depending on how you look at things, depending on your philosophy, the beginning and the end, right? It's the circle come full. So I think that there's this aspect of like being a point in that. And, they come to you at one point in it, you're giving them this information, and that starts the cycle for them again in whatever this issue is that they're coming to you with.
That's
so to be aware of that, of that.
Once at in a workshop, we did have the question of what is this kind of thing? What is divination? How do we be a better diviner? And how do we be better diviner was the very sexy, exciting card of the 5 of Pentacles, which in the Rider-Waite-Smith is which we were using, is people in the snow, poor people in the snow, bereft of all help. And the answer that came up with that was really poetic was, our job is to get people through the winter of their souls, of their life, what's going on.
That's a cyclical, this is season cycle kind of thing too.
Absolutely. Like winter's not forever unless you're George R. R. Martin. So,
well, and even then, it has a beginning, ends. Right? It has
every rain cloud runs out of rain, right?
Yeah. So I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah. So absolutely, the Oracle Glass is. Hopefully, we haven't spoiled too much of it. I think there's still plenty of mysteries, and I think that if you like a budding occultist storyline, if you like a historical fiction that is going to make you want to be in the court of the Sun King, and experience all of the decadence and the drama and the intrigue of that life. And if you like a story where fortune telling is used really well, I think it's a great novel. Yeah.
I also heartily recommend. I mean, I will say it is a little bit of a doorstop, but it's worth it.
It's big, and you just, all the French names, people's, okay, just get through it. You'll be fine. You'll remember the ones you have to, and there's context clues.
Yeah, exactly. Or listen to the audiobook. She does a great job of pronouncing them, and then they're really different because she's pronouncing them in French, so they don't sound as much the same as they look on the page, I think. Awesome. So do you want to flog anything here before we wrap things up?
I do. So tarot, an oracle card reading for dummies. I think sometimes the For Dummies label is a little uncomfortable for people, and that's what we got in the early 2000s. We got all the Smart Girl's Guide to, which is a absolute great approach to that. But for Dummies, it's just about having someone who it's about going to someone who's a knowledgeable friend who walks you through it, and that is the tone. The editor team is incredible, and they do a wonderful job of making sure that one thing I appreciate about For Dummies book is that any section you're reading in the book, you don't need to know anything else from the book. It all has to be self-contained. And they worked very hard with me to make sure that was the case. And that is, the truth is, people don't read tarot books cover to cover for the most part. They read them kind of haphazard. And so you can do that. And I'm proud of two sections in there. One is the equation of meaning, which are like when sometimes you're reading a tarot book and they'll say, okay, the Knight of Cups, it means this in this situation. You're like, how did they get there? Like, please show me the math, and I put what I think of as my equation for how we arrive at meaning. And it's something that happens very quickly once you know what you're doing. It's not like you're having to work it out like long division, but it's the different factors and the other thing is something that stumped me in the beginning is, what do you say about Oracle decks? Because Oracle decks, almost everyone is reading them the same way. They open the book, they go to the page, number 5, and they read the thing. And Oracle decks are almost all written as advice. And so they just tell you what to do. And so I acknowledge that, but I thought it was important to go beyond that. And like, what can you do with Oracle? Oracle decks are just as versatile as anything else, but because they have that on rails experience for a lot of people, I think they don't get taken seriously. And so one of the things that I got to do was, from the perspective of someone who I've written Oracle deck guidebooks, and what that usually consists of is I get sent an art file with all these images and I have no other information and I have to write the guide. And so there are all of these techniques that as the writer you have to use to interrogate that card. And it's not just you look at it and you write the answer. It's actually, you have to look at the whole deck in entirety and understand its worldview and biases. You have to make sure that the same answer isn't in every card. So that perspective, I hope, will be helpful for anyone who wants to take their Oracle deck practice further and to be a more versatile Oracle deck reader. So that's my hope. So Tarot and Oracle card reading for Dummies is available wherever fine books are sold.
Yes, and it's lovely. Wiley very graciously sent me a copy and I got to read it, and it is quite lovely. And I think really one of the things about the Dummies books that I appreciate is that when you just kind of want to dip in, their visual aesthetic is so easy to do that. Like, it's very bite-sized kind of chunk of stuff, and you don't feel like you've got to you don't feel like you have to dig through to find what you need. But one of the things they do that I so appreciate, and especially nonfiction books, is there's an excellent index.
Yes.
Because I think that you need that in a kind of a reference book. I think of it's very reference book. And for people listening, the section on the card meanings is incredible. Like, even as someone who thinks she knows how to read tarot cards, I will have it bookmarked in on my little tarot shelf next to my desk because it's really helpful.
That was, if I could touch 2 quick little things. One, when I went to the For Dummies people, they're asking, so they need a very comprehensive outline, and we spent a lot of time on the outline, and it made writing it really easy, which is a great way to write. But when I told them that the chapter on the meanings would be 80 pages, they came back to me and they said, you can't have an 80-page chapter in a For Dummies book. And I happened to have mixology for dummies or cocktail making for dummies. And I was like, there's a 115-page or 16-page chapter in that. And so they're like, all right, you got us. So I got to do that. And then I also, one nerdy thing, if you know the For Dummies books, they're little icons. So they have tip and warning and technical stuff and one more. And so almost every single For Dummies book has exactly the same icons. It's rare that you get a unique icon. And this one got a unique icon. It's in the cards. Which is anytime that there's a technique or an exercise for you to do, it's labeled with that. And so they designed one for me. So just I had DOS for Dummies and Windows Dummies at my house when I was a kid in the 90s. So it was just very exciting for me to have a unique icon in the book, in a nerd place. So, yeah.
Oh, no. I mean, you were in the right place to nerd out about book stuff.
Right on, right on. Yeah.
So, Charles, thank you for coming back on the show. And I don't even think I mentioned at the top, this is now your third appearance on WitchLit. So thank you for being a repeat friend of the pod.
Love
it. For picking this book. I so enjoyed it. Like both of your books you've picked, like are books that will stick with, like I still think about Godmother Night all the time.
Oh, right on. Oh, I love it. Thank you for the space. It's the most fun show to ever get to be on and to nerd out about books together and writing together. So love it. And I'll keep coming back.
Awesome. All right. Well, take care. And, you'll now, listener, get into stuff. But thank you, Charles. I really appreciate it. WitchLit is a production of 1000 Volt Press and is edited by Julian Rashke. Our intro music is Cosmic Glow by Andrew Kay, and our outro music is Voices by Alexander Shanekar. Transcripts and all our previous episodes are available at witchlitpod.com, and you can follow us on Instagram or Threads at witchlitpod. Please help other witches find us by leaving a rating or review wherever you listen to podcasts. And thank you for listening to and reading WitchLit.